There are moments you think you've moved on from, moments you don't talk about anymore, moments you buried under new routines, new cities, new versions of yourself. You tell people you've healed. You don't check their profile anymore. You don't reread old messages. You don't replay voicemails late at night. You're fine. You function. You laugh. You go to work. You sleep. You're fine. Until one completely ordinary day, a song plays in the background of a grocery store. And suddenly, you're not standing in aisle 7. You're back in their car, windows down, sun hitting the dashboard, your hand resting where theirs used to be, and the memory doesn't knock. It just sits down beside you, like it never left. That's the thing about relationship moments. The important ones don't disappear. They just grow quiet. They wait. And when they come back, they don't ask permission. They remind you, you didn't forget. You adapted. You learned how to live around them, but they're still there. And if I'm honest, so are mine. It started the way most love stories do. We had only known each other for a week. A mutual friend had introduced us at a birthday dinner. Loud music, too many people, conversations overlapping. We barely spoke that night. Just a polite exchange. A quick smile. This cafe was our first real conversation. It doesn't even exist anymore. One of those narrow places with chipped ceramic cups and a bell above the door that rang too loudly every time someone walked in. I got there 10 minutes early. Pretended to check emails so I wouldn't look nervous. When they walked in, they smiled like they were relieved I was real. We ordered coffee, sat across from each other, and I started talking about work, about deadlines, about a coworker who annoyed me. I always talked too much when I was nervous, filled silence before it had the chance to judge me. And then, mid-sentence, I realized they weren't interrupting, not checking their phone, not scanning the room. They were just looking at me, not at my face, at me. Like they were trying to memorize something, like I had said something extraordinary, even though I hadn't. No background music swelling, just that look and the unsettling realization that this might matter. And something inside me shifted. Because being seen like that does something dangerous. It makes you open doors inside yourself you usually keep locked. You don't forget the first time someone looks at you like you matter, even if you pretend you do. Years later, I still measure new glances against that one. No one knows I do, but I do. And that's how memories live, quietly. A few months into us, there was a small lie, so small it felt ridiculous to care about. A changed detail in a story, a timeline that didn't quite align. You're overthinking it. Maybe I was, but something in my chest tightened in a way it hadn't before. Not anger, not suspicion, just awareness. I remember standing in the kitchen that night. The light above the stove flickered slightly. They were explaining. I was nodding, and inside something adjusted. Trust didn't shatter. It bent just slightly. And that slight bend? That's the moment you never forget, because later when everything unravels, you trace it back. Not to the explosion, to the first hairline crack. But back then, I chose peace over confrontation. Because love makes you negotiate with your own instincts. You tell yourself, it's nothing. It's small. It's not worth losing sleep over such a minor matter. And maybe it wasn't. But it was worth noticing. There's a day in every relationship you don't realize is the last normal one. Ours was quiet. We ordered food, argued over what to watch, fell asleep halfway through a movie we never finished. If someone had whispered, "Memorize this," I would have. I would have memorized the exact weight of their arm around me, the smell of the laundry detergent, the softness in their voice when they said goodnight. But nobody warns you. Life doesn't give spoilers. It just gives hindsight. And hindsight replays that day in cruel detail because that was the last time nothing felt fragile. After that, something shifted. It wasn't the fights. The fights were normal. What changed was the silence after. We had an argument that wasn't even catastrophic. It wasn't screaming or broken glass. It was worse. It was controlled and, if I will say, measured. We said sharp things calmly, and then we stopped talking. But we didn't leave the room. That's what made it heavy. We were sitting on opposite ends of the couch, same space, different worlds. The refrigerator hummed in the background. Cars passed outside, and the distance between us felt physical. I wanted to say something, anything. But pride is strange. It convinces you silence is strength, that if you speak first, you lose. So we both stayed quiet. And that silence, it echoed louder than any fight. Sometimes love doesn't collapse loudly. Sometimes it thins out slowly, like fog lifting, until you realize you're standing alone. The day I realized I was trying harder than they were, it didn't come with drama. It came with exhaustion. I started initiating more, texting first, apologizing first, planning more, compromising more. And one afternoon, mid-conversation, I had a terrifying thought. If I stop trying right now, does anything move? I tested it once, just to see, and nothing moved. No effort met me halfway. No urgency. No, "Are you okay?" I now remembered how conversations became logistical instead of curious, how "I love you" turned into routine instead of reassurance. That realization is devastating because it's not betrayal, it's imbalance. And imbalance kills love quietly. I didn't leave. Not then, because we don't walk away at the first sign of fading. We stay and rationalize. We adjust ourselves smaller until one day we don't recognize who we are. The goodbye wasn't explosive, no dramatic storm, no shouting in parking lots. It was a composed goodbye. Too composed that they looked calm and certain. That's what hurt the most. Not anger, not hesitation, just clarity. I remember watching their face while they spoke, studying it for doubt, for regret, for some sign that this was hard. But they looked steady, like they had rehearsed the acceptance already. And maybe they had. Sometimes people leave emotionally long before they leave physically, and the person who stays behind is the last to know. And one afternoon I found myself staring at our old photos, not to feel nostalgia, but to check something. I was looking for proof that it had once been real, because when love starts thinning, you question your own memory. Was it ever that good? Did I imagine the intensity? Was I the only one who felt it that deeply? That doubt is brutal. It makes you rewrite history just to survive the present. The tension built slowly, no single moment dramatic enough to leave over. Just accumulation, one canceled plan, one distracted response. Some days they chose elsewhere instead of here, and I stayed. Not because I was weak, but because I remembered who they had been. And I kept loving that version, even when the current one barely resembled it. When I saw them with someone else a few months later, it wasn't jealousy that broke me. It was how light they looked, how relaxed, how easy their laughter came, like something heavy had been set down. And I realized maybe I had been that weight. That thought stayed longer than I expected, But here's the part no one talks about, the part that's almost boring. One evening, I was cooking, nothing special, just stirring something on the stove, and I laughed at something I saw on my phone. And halfway through it, I paused because I realized I hadn't thought about them all day. Not intentionally, not forcefully, just naturally. It wasn't a victory. It wasn't triumphant. It was subtle. Like realizing winter had ended without you noticing. That's when I understood something important. You don't forget the moments. You just stop bleeding from them. They don't vanish. They integrate. They become part of your emotional architecture. The look in the cafe, the small lie, the last normal day, the silence, the imbalance, the calm goodbye, the sight of them moving on. They still live somewhere inside me. But they don't control me anymore. And that's the difference. We think healing means erasing. It doesn't. Healing means remembering without collapsing. It means hearing the song in aisle 7 and smiling instead of spiraling. It means accepting that some love stories don't stay, but they still matter. There are relationship moments you think you've forgotten, but you haven't. You've just grown around them. And maybe that's the quiet miracle nobody prepares you for. Not that love ends, but that you survive it and become someone deeper because it did. And one day, someone new might look at you across a table, and their gaze won't compete with the past. It will feel different, not louder, not more intense, just steady. And this time, when you notice it, you won't open every door at once. You'll open them slowly, with awareness, with wisdom, with scars that no longer scare you. Because you didn't forget. You evolved. And sometimes that's the most beautiful ending of all. Subscribe for more interesting stories. Also like, comment, and share with your friends and loved ones.